come once again to discuss things.
Continue to sync at the front. Anyway, you ready to go ahead and get into this?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. This is another mini-sode, though I doubt it's going to be very short, of Geeky Gentlemen History Month, the month in which we discuss the contributions that Geeky Gentlemen have made to history, but that have been ignored by bias educational system, except not at all. This week I'm joined by my good friend Rasco. Hello, Rasco.
What up?
And I'm, of course, your good, gentle, loving host, Sid Part 2. What? That I am definitely gentle and loving. Don't you laugh at my adjectives.
Oh, very humble.
Those are the top two adjectives to associate with me. Anyway, this week we're reviewing the first season of the 2016 animated series Zorro the Chronicles. Zorro the Chronicles is a series you've probably not heard of because it was initially released, if I'm remembering correctly, in France and Spain, and maybe Italy. And it took a while for an English dub of it to make its way, or not, it's not an English dub because even all the original trailers are in English. It took a while for the English version to make it all the way over here across the pond because they couldn't find, or they had some trouble finding a network to air it, and so it is aired exclusively on Hulu. The good news is you can get a 30-day free trial of Hulu and watch it, and then cancel that 30-day free trial of Hulu, because who the hell uses Hulu? So anyway, I'm a big Zorro fan. Rasco, do you like Zorro? Are you fond of Zorro?
I know literally nothing about Zorro. Like, take what people know about Zorro and subtract everything from that, and that's what I know about Zorro.
Okay, well, that's fair. So Zorro is almost 100 years old. He is 98 years old at this point. He was created back in 1919 by Johnston McCulley as part of just basically a dime novel. Zorro is a character set in Spanish California. To be fair, Rasco, not a lot of people even know that Spain once held control over California. So I think you're ahead in that regard.
Yes.
Zorro was in Spanish California, and he fought against oppression, stood up for the weak. Zorro was known for leaving his mark, the Z shape, into any man who abused a native or a man of the cloth. He was a honorable caballero that would still fight with honor and dignity, though. And this is another in a long line of Zorro-related television shows. There have been a number of them. This most closely mirrors the Disney show, and if not for the sheer length of this season, I would have asked you to watch one episode of the Disney show just so you could see how much they are pulling from for this, because I thought that was really interesting. But before we get into all that noise, what'd you think of this season of television?
I didn't love it.
I had a feeling. You want to elaborate?
Hate it.
Okay.
Yeah, so for one, there's like a combination of things going into this that are not putting it in it's okay. There's just a storm of bad situations here for me. One, I don't typically care too much for just animated things in general.
Okay.
And it's not like a snob thing. It's not like, oh, it's not true art. It's nothing like that. And I mean this like across the board. Like this goes for like 2D animation as well. It's just for some reason it's hard for me to get excited about that today, whereas like I used to be into that stuff when I was a kid, but today I just care much less about that.
Okay.
So that's just like a really general thing that would apply to like almost anything. That's why like every year people are like, "Ooh, this Pixar movie's on my top 10," but I will never have a Pixar movie on my top 10 movies of the year list like ever. And it's just because of that. So there's that going for it. I don't have necessarily the investment in Zorro, literally knowing nothing about Zorro, that other people might have. So I feel like part of the fun of shows like this and like new interpretations of like Spider-Man, like new animated series, like when they made Spectacular Spider-Man, stuff like that. Part of what's fun about it is you get to like compare and contrast it to versions you've already seen. And it's kind of like these kind of characters like superheroes, and Zorro seems to fall into this kind of category of characters that it seems like new interpretations are welcome as opposed to like shunned, as long as they're not like too against the spirit of the character. So that's like one of those things where I just have nothing to base this off of. So I have less interest in that sense. And I just feel like, and I don't mean to like, because in certain ways it surprised me with its maturity, but in some ways I just feel like I'm just a little bit too old for this. And that sounds really bad. I feel like an asshole for saying that because there's other things that I'm clearly too old for that I don't feel that way. But
no,
like,
I could see where you're coming from there, because I would say this is mostly for kids. Like, this is for kids and folks like me who are Zorro fans. Is the way I would get this. Like, I wouldn't, like, recommend, oh, you want to get into Zorro? You should watch Zorro the Chronicles. I would still recommend the Disney show for someone that wants to get into Zorro and see what makes Zorro cool, and that's, from the friggin' late 50s. But yeah, I'd agree that this is definitely aimed more toward kids, so it's not really something for adults. But it's a new Zorro thing, and I wanted to make sure to get a chance to talk about Zorro during History Month, so this seemed like an appropriate thing to watch and gave me an excuse to watch it. For me, yeah, again, I think this is mostly for kids and Zorro fans. I think if you are a Zorro fan, you will enjoy this. If you're not, and you're not a child, you probably don't have any real reason to watch it. Again, there are other things to watch Zorro related that you'll probably get more out of. That being said, this is a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed this watching it. Some of the stuff I was like, I talk about it. This pulls heavily from the Disney stuff. Like, if you Google search just Sergeant Garcia Disney, right now, you'll find the original Sergeant Garcia and his actor, and you'll look at the costume he's in, and it's the exact same costume that all the soldiers are wearing in this one. And all the soldiers in the Disney show wear the exact same costumes that they wear in this one. And as far as I know, that is not, historically accurate to Spanish soldier uniforms. I could be wrong about that, though. I think it is just straight pulling from the Disney thing, which is fine, because that has had like just a profound impact on the character over the years since Disney. Like, I can't tell you the number of things I've read that have Sergeant Garcia in them, and that's all because of the Disney show. He did not exist before that. It'd be like if the Batman serial introduced Alfred or something, It'd be something weird like that, or I guess Commissioner Gordon or something like that. So, I don't really have a problem with this pulling for the Disney show in that sense. I will say there are several points at which it does not straight up copy the episode, but it pulls specific plot details from other episodes of the Guy Williams Disney show. Like, there's an episode that it all starts when Zorro hangs up a flag in the garrison with a Z on it. And that happens in this show, too. Mm-hmm. And there's an episode where a Chinese man is in Spanish California, and that happens here, too. The reason why he's there is a lot different in the Disney show, but still, it's highly specific, right? To think that it didn't kind of get picked up. But at the same time, I don't know, like, I laughed at some of it. I thought it was kind of fun. I enjoyed some of the choices they made to evolve the medium. Like, as much as I can compare it to Disney, to the fact that it even opens the same as the Disney show with Zorro sword fighting on a ship for fun. I like the changes they make to Bernardo. The fact that Bernardo is almost like Bernardo's almost like Robin in this, whereas most of the time he's more of an Alfred style character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's not old, but he's mainly just there to like stitch Zorro up and stuff. Like, you know, if you look at the Guy Williams show and you look at Diego and Bernardo, you know, it's clear who's the fighter and who's the silly one, right?
Yeah.
Because Bernardo's like several feet shorter and all this stuff. This takes a lot from the Disney one, but in terms of Bernardo, he comes a lot more from the Isabel Allende, Matt Wagner comics and novel, wherein he's a Native American. He's Milk Brothers with Diego. That's not like specifically mentioned here, but that's highly alluded to. Just a lot of stuff like that. Like I really like the changes that they make to Bernardo here. How'd you feel about just the overall tone of it, though?
So I think it's like a little bit too goofy for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that because I'm just comparing it to things that are kind of aimed around this same age range, but are a little bit more all-encompassing in terms of, like, you can kind of get into it if you're a little bit older. Things like Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, that's obviously a step darker than this. Mm-hmm. Not to say that those are dark. They're a little bit more atmospheric and a little bit more weighty. Mm-hmm. But this, I didn't think was like it was weird because like this had a lot of like slapstick, mm-hmm. but it was weirdly like rooted, like it never gets like away from its like plot and like what's going on in the episode, and like that was just really strange to me. It was actually like plotted, mm-hmm. and it wasn't just like gibberish, and there were like motives and there was like scheming, and that was interesting because it kind of feels like maybe it's a little bit like I don't know. Like, I don't know if kids who laugh at some of the humor in this would also even necessarily understand what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised how long some of these arcs for the villain plots last. Like, I forget his name, the evil Don. You know, he shows up about halfway through, and he is not gone and done with his scheming until, like, 5 episodes before the end of the season, right? Mm-hmm. You know, same with the other Don's wife. God, I feel so bad I can't remember the name.
The red-haired woman?
Yeah, I finished this like a week ago, so some of the details are a little fuzzy for me. You know, she shows up, and it's a while till she gets her comeuppance. Like, they never quite catch anybody in this.
Yeah.
It takes a while for them to get any real resolution. You know, something I was surprised about is when Don Verdugo, was that it? Or Donna Verdugo? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Yeah, when the evil Don shows up, though, you finished this like yesterday and you can't remember.
I know, but I just can't remember their names. I don't.
I know who
Zorro is.
I have at least like a week to justify it, but you can't even remember like a day ago. That's pretty bad.
I watched a lot of things.
That's fine. It's fine. I gotta look up some of the. Oh, come on! They don't even have the.
I know. I tried to find it.
Oh, they got like all the. That's a pain. Anyway.
I know. I tried to find like the.
We're trying to look up the names on IMDb, and like they don't even have all the characters listed. Zorro the Chronicles. But like, you know, when he shows up, he mentions that he made his fortune on the oceans. He made his fortune on the high seas, mm-hmm. and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because in like this first or second episode, Diego mentions that his mother was killed by pirates,
Mm-hmm.
And you just tell when this guy shows up, he's going to be a bad guy. And so I'm like, oh, are they going to do where this is like the pirate that killed his mom? It's Don Malapensa. I found a website with all the side characters. Don Malapensa, and like it's weird because it turns out he's a pirate, and then they don't connect it back to the death of Diego's mother. And I was like, well, that's slightly disappointing.
Don't worry, it's gonna come back around eventually.
Well, I mean, they do give the impression that he maybe survived.
Oh yeah, that's kind of dark if he didn't survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, what? Did he just really kill himself? Because they're like, oh yeah, maybe he's just fooling us. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but if you forget about that scene is really dark.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's weird because in the Guy Williams show, not to talk too much about that, but like whenever anybody found out who Zorro was, that was the episode that they died. And Zorro never like straight up stabbed anyone through the chest or anything, but they died. They fell off a roof fighting him or some shit. And so this kind of does a similar thing where it's like, okay, now that we're done having this guy be a villain, he's gone. And I was just like really surprised that they go, okay, he's a pirate, and Diego's mother was killed by pirates. Why isn't that connected? That was like a weird thing to drop both of those elements and not connect them together.
Yeah.
So it's far from a perfect show. Again, this is definitely more for kids. And you mentioned the slapstick. There's a lot of slapstick, particularly with a lot of the military guys. And generally speaking, I don't like that. You have Zorro who rises up as this force to squash oppression and fight back against it and all that stuff. It's a little underwhelming when he can just this easily make buffoons of the arm of the oppressors,
They're hilariously incompetent. Like, to the point where they like watch him slit like the leather strap on their saddle of their horses. Like he's like bye-bye, and they watch him cut their saddles, and then they get on them and like fall off. And it's like he just did that in front of you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of slapstick, and at times it gets kind of annoying. I mean, end of the day, Zorro's going to get away from the soldiers and all, but I feel like it lowers the stakes when you have the soldiers just be that incompetent. My personal thing is like I don't like the soldiers to be incompetent. I like Garcia to be incompetent, and for him to be telling them to do all the wrong things. Because, like, in the original show, Garcia got to be a sergeant because, like, he, at one point, walked in on his commanding officer in the middle of an affair, and he got a promotion halfway across the world because of it. And, like, that's really funny. It's like, someone asked him, how did you get promoted to sergeant? You're the worst. And he explains it, and then they're like, oh, okay. And so, like, I like when the soldiers actually, can be kind of ruthless, kind of scary and stuff, but Garcia just tells them all the wrong things to do, and because he's the sergeant in command, they screw up. That being said, what do you think of the action in this? The sword fighting and all that.
It's not terrible. Like, it's a little bit like, okay, so I have to say that the animation is somewhere between, it's either, okay, so like I've seen quite a few of these like newer 3D animated like kids shows. Like I watched a lot of these kind of shows on like Nick and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This is somewhere in the middle where it's definitely not as bad as I've seen it be before. It's not the best either for what I think you can do with shows like this. I think that my biggest problem is that oftentimes it feels kind of like static and like movements a little bit too robotic. And this isn't about the fights, but the environments are really like just still. all the time, and that's kind of like weird and like I don't know, it's kind of uninviting, but that's pretty true of a lot of animation. That's not just this. Like a lot of animation has just like static backgrounds.
No, I agree. Some of the animation for me, it wasn't too still. Like, I thought some of the faces were, like, way over animated at points.
Oh, yeah?
Like, Commander what's his name? God damn it. Commander Monasterio. He has such wild expressions on his face at times. It is ludicrous. Like, honestly, if this were live action, he would be Jim Carrey. You know? And so that was a little bit where I was like, oh, that's disappointing. Or it's just like, it's just too much. And like, I think he was the only character where that was like a significant problem, but I still saw that and I was like, oh, wow, that's like a lot of expression from that guy. The fighting, though, I thought was pretty good. It was, kind of some fun, crazy fighting that you could only pull off in a cartoon. Like, Diego would Spider-Man up on things using his whip and stuff like that. And, like, it's complete bullcrap, but it's cool. I don't know. The fighting the animation overall wasn't the best thing ever, but yeah, I'd agree. It's like far from the worst kind of animation. Like, I don't know, did you watch any of Kong, King of the Apes on Netflix?
No.
That is some of the worst CG animation I've ever seen. Like here,
I kind of want to watch part of it. Wait, I think we talked about this before. At one point, you wanted me to watch that. You wanted me to watch that at one point.
Oh yeah, it's really bad. Like Kong would be in the water and then he'd get out and his fur wouldn't be wet. This, like, when someone falls in the water, they actually look wet,
Yeah.
They take the time to change the textures, add the proper like weight to the clothing, mat the clothing down, stuff like that. So they actually look like they got wet. So yeah, I've seen worse 3D animation cartoon shows, but this certainly isn't the best thing ever.
Yeah, something that I like about some 3D animated things and shows is that the continuity of like the locations is always the same, because I guess like they're built, and once they're like built, they're there. Like, like the town layout and everything is always the same, whereas like 2D animated things, you can like warp space and things like that in weird ways. Like in SpongeBob, every time you're in the Krusty Krab is different and it's like shaped differently. Whereas like I kind of like in a lot of these 3D animated shows where it's like everything is the same because it's all there in a three-dimensional space. So there's like actual geography.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where like it's a give and take, because it makes it easier to animate in some ways, because you can just stick the characters in the town and like you don't have to keep recreating the town or create a new angle on this building for where they are at this time. It's just already there. You just, okay, we haven't done anything over on this side of this building, so let's put them there this time. Yeah. The restriction that comes with that, though, is you have to plan out your series a lot further in advance. So, like, you need all the scripts ahead of time, because you need to know all the locations that you have to build, all the rooms you have to build.
Yeah.
And so
cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trade-off. It means less versatility. It means you're going to be in fewer locations. But the flip side of it is, the longer the show goes on, the more locations you can add, and the more consistent, and they'll still all be consistent, Mm-hmm. So it's a give and take. What else with the animation in this? There's one sequence that gets played over and over and over again, and I gotta know what you thought of that. How'd you feel about the suit up?
Oh yeah, the suit up. It's like a video game like thing. Like when you go to like a mission, it's like, I'm going on this mission. That's pretty much what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's interesting because like the first time it happened and like the music's playing and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then they keep reusing it every single episode, and I'm like, really? Every single episode you got to put this in there? And like it wouldn't be as big a problem if they had like 2 or 3 that they switched between, but it's the exact same animation sequence over and over and over. The only difference, like there's one episode where there are 2 episodes where they don't use it. The pilot, and then the very, very, like toward the very end when they're in Monterey and he has to get suited up outside of the cave. And even then they still play the music while he gets suited up on the docks. But like, it's just, you know, you gotta play the same sequence over and over again. You couldn't have made a few. And at certain points it'd be like, okay, now we have to make an excuse for it to be nighttime because otherwise the continuity of the shot doesn't work. And so I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Excuse me, that's a little weird. It's not weird. It's a little too cheap for my taste. Like, you can feel like, okay, we're doing this to pad out the time a little bit. Yada yada. And I was like, I'd prefer if you didn't. Okay, what else with this? Favorite villain or episode or like bad guy plot?
The red-haired woman is my favorite villain character.
Okay.
Because I like
that
evil women.
Isabella Verdugo.
Yes.
The names are quite fun in this.
Yes, that is a great name. One, I like how her color's red. That's just a thing. I kind of always I always like the evil characters that have red hair. It's just a thing across all, like Game of Thrones. Love Melisandre.
Yeah.
But I also like how she kind of just completely gets away with everything in there. Like, she's kind of fine for now, at least. And I don't know. I just kind of like her.
I didn't think she got away with everything at the end. Like, they arrest her, don't they? Or am I misremembering it?
No, they arrest the imposter, and then the imposter's like, it was her. And then she kind of is like, no. And then, like, somehow everyone is, like, thrown off her trail, and she just, like, walks away with her husband.
Okay, I missed that. Yeah, I like her a lot, too. It's kind of... I like one of my favorite things about Zorro is, you know, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they're all fighting, like, crime or, like, you know, evil people in some way, shape, or form. Zorro is one of the few characters that's, like, literally fighting the law.
Yeah.
Like, Zorro is fighting soldiers and politicians and just a corrupt government. So, while one of the villains in this is a pirate, the other villain in this, besides Captain Monasterio, the other major villain in this is a political schemer trying to gain more political power in the region. Mm-hmm. And that's just really interesting. I like that, you know, you get 2 branches of, like, state-run evil, and then you get, like, 1 branch of day-to-day kind of criminal. Like, your typical kind of criminal. I thought that was really interesting how that all worked out. And even the guy that's a criminal is, like, out for riches and stuff, you know? He's not, like, a pirate for the passion of it or the freedom of the lifestyle. He was a pirate because that's how he made his fortune, and now he's trying to gain the biggest ranch in all of California. Like, so he's a capitalist. I was like, yes! Communist Zorro.
I think that the best costume goes to Antonio Ramirez.
Antonio...
Well, it's not really...
Oh, the fencing instructor.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got the hat and I love the mustache. He's got the curled stash.
Yeah, the yellow, he knows just how to throw a splash of yellow in his outfit. Really brings it together. The white gloves are to die for as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, a lot of the character design and costuming is really cool in this. Like, Everybody has a great look to them, you know?
They are really, like, they're all, like, yeah, like, everybody actually has, like, a specific design that's, like, actually unique to them. It's not, like, recycled. Except for some of, like, the officers, but even then, like, they're officers. So, like,
they're in the military, so they have to be. So, like, Diego's got all the blue, you know, Ines has the yellow, that's really cool. Bernardo's got kind of like the dashing, with the... Bernardo looks like friggin' Han Solo. He's got the vest. Oh, yay, I'm happy. It's got everyone's got the sashes. It looks cool. I like the difference in color that's used. It really works for it. You know, typically I don't like Zorro to be wearing much of anything but just straight black. Like I don't like a red lined cape and stuff like that, generally speaking, on Zorro, but it works here. It does look good here.
Why is that? Why do you not like red?
Part of the whole thing with Zorro is that anybody could be Zorro, like just like in continuity wise, any random peasant could be Zorro, and just given the way that, you know, fabric and things worked at this time in history, to have like a cape wouldn't be that hard to come by, but to have a cape with a red lining would be like a status symbol. To have like the gold trim and stuff that he wears, that's a status symbol. So it's kind of like it's outing him as a Don, not just any random Joe, or I suppose any random one. Ha 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 ha. No, nothing. I get nothing. I get no reaction for that. I was proud of that, and you just let me down. No, but I agree. The color and the use of costuming is pretty cool on a lot of the characters. I like that, like Antonio and Rodrigo Malapensa both have like a purple, so like you kind of get that they're from the same family kind of thing going. That's cool.
Yeah.
It just works. It's cool costuming, cool character design. Again, like I don't love the dashes to the outfit, but Zorro looks really cool in this. I was really surprised by how young they made him in this show. He's supposed to be like 19.
Yeah. He's Spoder Moon.
I don't know, like I can dig that to a certain extent just because like if you're gonna rebel against the government and run around dressed as a superhero, yeah, being a teenager is probably about the right time for that. I feel like if you're gonna do it, that's the age at which you will do that.
Yeah. That's true. Pretty much, yeah. Can't deny it.
Okay, so your favorite villain was Danya Isabella Verdugo. Do you have like a member of Team Zorro that you really liked?
I think that I probably would say... Well, I just think that this guy has like a really cool just look because he's all like decked out in like gray, but Don Alejandro de la Vega.
Yeah.
I just think he's a beast. He just looks like a bamf. That's all I can say. Honestly.
Yeah, I like Alejandro. He's got a cool design here, and I was actually really surprised that they brought Diego's grandmother into this as a character, but not Alejandro, as far as like knowing that Diego is Zorro. Because that's usually a reveal that happens, is Alejandro figures out somewhere along the line. In the Disney show, he figured out and started like helping his son pull off all the schemes and whatnot. I really like their take on Bernardo here. They were very purposeful with like how they wrote Bernardo and had him, you know, at times basically just being more of a Robin than anything else. Where he's really helping Diego out on a lot of this stuff. Like usually, you know, Zorro's kind of the face of it all, but Bernardo's seen in the background making all the stuff happen, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ines does a little bit of that, but not nearly as much as I would like. Though it is cool to get to see her dress up in the Zorro outfit from time to time and do some stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how, like, because I don't know if this is true of Zorro outside of this, but, like, by the end of this, you kind of have, like, a team of 3. And that's, like, what happens on a lot of, like, the CW. That's, like, what happens on the CW shows is, like, you get, like, a Team Arrow, and it's, like, Diggle, Felicity, and Oliver. And then you have, like, Team Flash, and it's, like, Caitlin, Cisco, and Barry. And, like, this also has that by the end. But that's probably just a carryover unless...
Bernardo's always been around. Bernardo's one of the very first, like, hero sidekick kind of characters. And
yeah.
I really love that Bernardo's got a disability. I think that's really cool, and that's been there since the very beginning. If you watch the old silent films, it straight up says Bernardo can hear but not talk. And it's cool that he's been around and, representing and just being awesome and, like, using his disability to trick others and help the cause and all that's really cool. So I really, really like what they do with Bernardo. But Ines is pretty much a brand new character, as far as I can tell. I don't readily recall reading or seeing much else that has Zorro have a sister. So I thought she was an interesting addition. Basically, if it weren't Ines, it'd be Alejandro, I guess. So it's Ines instead. Yeah, I like the way they do that though. Is give them like a team to go to for help. I think that's like mainly started with the Nolan films. I don't think that like the character having a team of people that help him in the background was really much of a thing before Nolan. I could be wrong. I guess James Bond, but.
They stole it.
Yep. Did you have a favorite episode or like a villainy scheme kind of thing? You don't have to remember the title, obviously.
I like the episode. This is a really stupid episode, and I knew that this episode was going to be in this show, and so it's kind of like a satirical answer. But like my favorite episode was the one where they're like, "Where's like." Put on this Zorro outfit that fits your Zorro, and he's like, okay. He puts it on, and then like they're just like always not in the room when he's like actually being Zorro, and then when they go back to the room, he has to like get back into the room and like pretend he's just been waiting there for them the entire time and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just knew that episode was gonna happen. It did, so it's like yes, it's my favorite episode.
I like that one. It's always interesting when Diego is put into that situation of having to, prove that he is not Zorro. I liked it here. Everyone like they come and they have him put on the outfit, and immediately Alejandro's like, "My son's not Zorro." It goes well to how Diego plays his part. It's weird, though, that does reveal, like, an odd moment wherein Malapensa is convinced that Diego is Zorro, and then they do all this stuff, and, like, this weird stuff happens where Zorro shows up but immediately runs away, doesn't talk to anybody kind of thing. And then it, like, never comes back that Diego might be Zorro. Diego specifically. Like, they do another episode where it's like, it's gotta be a young man in the city, so it's and maybe it's Diego at this point, but he's like kind of just part of the group. It's never really comes back that Diego might be Zorro again.
He's stupid too. Like there's this part like when they're at the dinner party and like the guy's like, I've just bought all this land, and they're all like, yay! But and then there's this part where like the police say something and then Diego just comes out and he's like, oh, you better catch Zorro. And it's like, why would you say that? Like, you shouldn't be the one to say that. You're just like putting yourself and the name Zorro in the same sphere. People are going to connect those two. Stop bringing him up.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't get bothered by that too much. I always like the ways that Zorro, or that Diego has to convince people he's not Zorro. What was it it's funny, in like the second episode of the Disney show, they get ready to do that moment where it's like, I'm having people put on this costume and duel me to see if they are actually Zorro. And Diego's like, "Oh, well, I insist I do it right now." And the captain just, like, laughs in his face. He's like, "Oh, I'm sure it's not you." It's like, but there'll always be some lingering doubt. I must prove my innocence. It was just funny. But I don't know. This does a lot of pretty typical Zorro episodes. I'm reasonably surprised they managed to avoid the gold in California subplot. Because that's like a thing a lot of Zorro stuff does, is what if the Spanish discovered gold in California before they got kicked out of the region by the Mexican Revolution and the American expansion? But it doesn't do that in this show, but it might as well have, because they do a whole thing with the silver mine. I was like, okay. Guess that works. But yeah, I don't know. I was pretty pleased with this, just as a Zorro fan. I thought it was alright. I'm interested to see more. I don't know if they're gonna do a second season. I don't know if they've been approved for one or not. This doesn't have a very, very loud social media presence or anything, so it's hard to find out a lot about it. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not really. Not
Okay.
really.
Oh, I didn't answer for my favorite episode, though.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I don't know. It's hard to say. I like the one where they're having a dueling match in town, and Diego has to, like, get himself out and then come back as Zorro and win it. It's just a very Robin Hood kind of story, and it works on that level. So that was fun. Okay, I think I'm good. Let's go ahead and go on to ratings then. Rasco, what will you rate this?
I will give this show 3 out of 5 Zorro Z's.
I like that phrase, I've been Z'd. That was cool.
Yeah.
I'll give this 3.5 out of 5 tornadoes. I like Tornado. Tornado is awesome. Tornado was a badass in this show, though. Like, Zorro got knocked out, Tornado kicked ass. Let's see the Batmobile do that. I'm right, though. I'm right.
Yeah.
I am. Okay, Rasco, what will we be discussing next week?
Oh my god, I completely forgot.
You're the best, Rasco. Can it actually be something historically relevant this time?
So, does that have to be a historical movie? Or some, like, it's not a discussion topic, is it?
No, it's a review, because these are the replacement for fan film reviews.
Oh yeah, okay, so... Ooh. Gotta get something good.
Okay.
I'll
just browse through their website and look at, like, their... Oh, they got puzzles and games. Looks like fun. You can play Tic Tac Zorro, but you carve Z's instead of X's.
Let me just... You know what? I'm gonna do this live. I'm gonna walk everybody through the process. Let's just Google historical movies. And I'm gonna like go this. Because you always ask me about my thought process. We're just gonna make my thought process a part of this episode.
Okay, I'm game. All right, so
So
Googling historical movies, we get Braveheart, already done it. Gladiator, Schindler's List, Kingdom of Heaven, Ben-Hur, The Patriot, 300. We already did 300. Glory, Saving Private Ryan, Lawrence of Arabia, Gandhi, Gone with the Wind, Hotel Rwanda, The King's Speech, Downfall, 12 Years a Slave, The Last Samurai, Black Hawk Down, The Lion in Winter, Patton, Letters from Iwo Jima, Spartacus, Agora, Master and Commander, Far Side of the World, The Passion of the Christ, Apollo 13, King Arthur, already done that. Troy, ooh, Troy's a good one.
Hey, I got a good idea. Can we review Pearl Harbor?
Oh God, fine, fuck it, whatever.
Yes, we're gonna review Pearl Harbor.
Shit. Just had to bring Michael Bay into it.
That's literally why I picked it. I was like, yes, let's like pick the one movie that actually fits all of the criteria, but is like really against the spirit of History Month. It's like the least concerned with like actually spreading knowledge about history of like any historical movie you could find.
Oh God! All right, fine, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Next week, Pearl Harbor. Everybody enjoy that. Until then, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Beta Male Cuck.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.